I imagine it's been a bit of a funny breakdown and analysis of the weekend's game because you lost 3-0. But I get the feeling that there was quite a lot to be encouraged by. Is that the feeling in the changing room?
Yeah, I think there are no new problems, I think is the best way to put it. I think, obviously, when you lose 3-0, you think, yeah, we must have got battered there or something. But when you watch the game back, and I think as much as we did the analysis and we've looked at our sort of own mistakes, and yeah, there are a few things that have led to goals that we could be better at. I think fundamentally we played a sound game. The game plan was very good. We executed it well. And obviously there was, a moment that changed the game with Seamus and they're like getting sent off. But it didn't affect us too much. I would say that the only thing that really was the problem as such is we were the cause of our own sort of mishaps. Just defensively being out of position slightly with as a team, and then also giving the ball away and not having sort of the ball retention was the big thing that came out of our looking back at it. So going to the top of the league, they're flying, they've had a really good run of results, and matching them and being caught out in moments. I think that's probably the biggest thing to take away from it, is that it was just the moments. They finished their moments and we didn't. But it wasn't as though we got battered or anything like that. I thought we played really well.
On paper, this run of fixtures has looked difficult since the fixtures came out. The idea of the size of clubs, where you expect them to be in the table. Is it really important, therefore, to be encouraged by the things you're doing right?
Yeah, I think you've got to take a lot from it. I think you can be almost drawn into a doom and gloom when you're having a run like that, where we just won 1-3 on the bounce, and they were tough games, but we got through them, and again we game planned well and we executed well. So then when you come up against the Plymouth, and then we've got Derby and a few of the other sort of bigger clubs, if you want to say, coming up, is that if we try and do too much now, we'll get away from what made us successful. So if we try and change the world, it's probably going to do us worse than if we just left it for now. So I think that's all we've got to do. We've got to believe in ourselves. We've got to trust each other more than anything. I think obviously there's a great group of players in there, not only talent-wise and everything like that, but just mentally. There's a lot of belief in each other and in ourselves more than anything. Players that if they get the opportunities that they got against Plymouth, I back them 100%, and I know they back themselves. So I think definitely that's something that we just need to keep going, just to give it another go. Focus this week. We've had a good week of training, and then obviously we've got Derby, Liverpool and whoever else, but we're just focused on Saturday.
What kind of a prospect is Derby County at home then?
It's an exciting one. Personally, obviously they were Championship last year, so you want to try yourself against the best. That's sort of how everyone looks at it. We don't look at any club and think, well, no, they're out of reach. The fair game, they're on the same pitch as us. They've got the same amount of players. They've been given the same amount of time to prepare as we have. So it's just one of those where you've got 90 minutes to give it a good go. And it's not one of those where it's a free hit because we think, oh, you know what, we've written Derby off this year. We go into every game to win. So regardless of if it's Derby, if it's Plymouth, if it's Sheff Wednesday, doesn't matter, because we want to win every game that we play, especially at home. And so we're gonna go at them the same way we've gone at every team, which is, if you want to come and win here, you're going to have to earn it, and it's not going to be easy. And I think we've got a very good chance of winning this game.
In a perverse way, does it help that there's loads of these really big clubs with massive reputations in this division? So regularly you are playing those teams you mentioned, people like Ipswich, Portsmouth, Plymouth, Bolton, Derby, etc., etc.
To be honest, for me, it's more just I remember watching sort of like Soccer Saturday and even before that, when you had like the teleprompts and you check all the scores. These are the teams that had come up and you'd go, oh, Derby played today or Ipswich played today. How'd they get on? And the big clubs, they've got big followings. And Plymouth on Saturday for me personally was the biggest crowd I've ever played in front of, and I loved it. And so with these big clubs, you sort of just look at them and go, you know what, it's a kids' game. This, the fact that there's so many people interested and so many people watching just sort of adds to the excitement more than anything. There's no point putting some games at a higher level than others, just because there's either more eyes on it or they're bigger clubs in whatever way. It's still a game of football. It's still something to be enjoyed, but it's something to savour because they don't come around a lot. So when you play against the likes of Derby and whoever else, it's just like any game of football, but yeah, there'll be a few more eyes on it. But it's just something to enjoy. You
seem to be really enjoying it.
I love it. I love my job. It's a strange one, isn't it, where I think I've had a bit of perspective the last couple of years where I've fallen back in love with football. And I put a lot of that down to Southport and the people that were there last year, because it reminded me that football is a game, as much as it's massive to the community and everything like that. And I think that's why football's so popular, is because there's so many people that put value on it. But fundamentally, it's a 90-minute game of people kicking a ball around. And it's there to be enjoyed. And that's why that when we go out onto the pitch, we go out to win. Regardless of who we play, and I'll repeat myself again, regardless of who you play, if you don't play a game of football to win, what are you playing for? And I think more than anything, it's what I love. Football's the game that I love. It's the game that I've been lucky enough to play, and that's what it is. Everyone here realises it's a privilege to play football, and so these bigger games, if you will, are just a bigger occasion to enjoy the game that we've always loved.
Is that a common thread, do you think, in the sort of personalities of the people you've got in the changing room in there, that we are lucky to be here and have this opportunity for various reasons?
Yeah, and I don't think it's, we're lucky because there's other people that are better than us, because there's a couple of ways of looking at it that way. It's definitely, it's a privilege to play for this club. If you have a look at the players that have played previously and the teams that have been successful, there's a legacy here to sort of preserve. It's not as if Accrington have always been a punching bag or anything like that. Just like any club, they've been successful in their own right. And so when you put the shirt on, you do it with pride. And even though I've only been here a couple of months, I realise that there's a very strong sense of community in the club. We've recently done like the stuff with the schools and everything, and just the value that has not only to us as players, because it puts again into perspective that we are sort of celebrated in the community, if you will, but it's for us to play for them. It's for us to play for the fans and everything like that. And Saturday's just another opportunity for us to try and win a game for them.